This is Joyce M.Tice, and I'm talking to Leslie Evans, who grew up in Mansfield and went to school all through, did all the schooling in Mansfield, and then taught here. So, Leslie, first, tell us a little bit about growing up in Mansfield.
Well, growing up in Mansfield was wonderful. I lived down in St. James Street, and we had several young people my age, the Websters, the Justins, the Garrisons. A little farther up the hill, I don't recall their names, but as you got farther up the hill, we were kind of the flat gang. and when we got farther up the hill, there were the Judges and the Petersons and those that had more money. And
so the socioeconomic went with the elevation.
That's just about right. And we sometimes, one of the things as we got a little older, the Websters had a small stream that ran through their yard.
This was Dewey and Marshall?
Dewey and Marshall and Jenny and Myron's father and mother and so on.
Right.
And that stream ran behind our house over on St. James Street. And we used to defend that stream as the flat gang against the hill gang. And especially on Halloween, there was a small bridge across that, a little bridge you could walk across, and we defended that with hoses and BB guns, and we just had a wonderful time. But you could just, nobody was concerned about you wandering around, or it was very, very safe. It was very, very peaceful. It was an ideal home situation. And we had get-togethers, and the neighbors were all very neighborly, and except for one family, and I won't mention Mr. Klessa, but anyway.
Not by name.
Anyway, but it was just, I would say, about as ideal a childhood as a person could be brought up in. And then you mentioned something about schools before. Started out in a nursery school in temporary buildings on the campus. And the main thing I remember about that was that some people received graham crackers and milk in the morning, and some of us didn't. And apparently some of us looked healthy, and so that was bad. I enjoyed graham crackers and milk. No.
You didn't get any?
I didn't get any. But along with mentioning, and this is jumping around, but mentioning the nursery school and then the elementary school and the junior high school, we had the involvement of all of the people who were education majors then it was a state teachers college. And we would have almost as many, sometimes, young adults in our classrooms as we had students. And if you needed individual help, there was lots of individual help. And I think it made me a very inquiring person, because there was so much personal attention and personal contact. And that went right up through to the junior high school.
Now, you went to elementary school. Did you go in the yellow brick building or the red brick building?
We were in the yellow brick building, and in the yellow brick building we watched them build the red brick building. And I guess what I remember most about that is when they were going to blow up some of the stone for the base for the red brick building, we'd go over to the window, and they'd have these huge mats that they put down, and we'd hear kaboom, and the mats would go up in the air, and then they didn't use a lot of backhoes and so on, but they came in and took the material out that they had loosened up, and finally got the big hole dug where they built the red brick building.
Now, I think now they call the yellow brick one Belknap and the red brick one Rattan.
Right, named after George A. Rattan. Might have been Junior, I'm not sure.
Well, his father was Edwin Rattan,
Okay.
and then Edwin or Edward, and then George. They both were principals there.
I would make one comment about, he had a doctor, Dr. Rattan, he was principal, and the best story I know about him was that when someone was referred to him by a teacher, then generally there was a parental follow-up. And when the parents came in, and if they were dissatisfied with something that had happened, and they would talk to Dr. Rattan about it, he had a hearing aid, and it was the old kind that had a wire that went down into an inside pocket. And as soon as the conversation got very distasteful for him, they said he always reached inside of his shirt and turned that hearing aid down so he never heard the rest of the dissatisfaction that parent had. And his response was always, and so on. And I suspect it might have been true, but I'm not sure.
Now, you spent 6 years there at the elementary school, and then you went up to the junior high school. Tell me a little bit about what the junior high school was like when you were a student there.
More traditional than the elementary school. We went from classroom to classroom with different subjects in different classrooms, where in the elementary school usually the same teacher taught all subjects or whatever. Junior high school, we went from class to class, so you passed in the halls and that sort of thing. The junior high was about 3 levels. Had a gym, nice gym. Had a very well-filled shop, different kinds. We had wood shop and print shop. They had a big old print press in there. You could set print and run the print press and pull the wheel and make it go, and the big old thing you put the grease or the print ink on would go around, and you had to be careful that you put paper in and got it out at the right time, because it was a real printing press. And we had electric shop, and we had home ec. Boys took home ec, girls took shop, certain periods, and there was just many aspects of the shop. I'd tell you that I did not graduate from high school ever.
Because of the war.
Because of the war. I went into ASTP, Army Specialized Training Program, and reason that our family made the decision for me to do that, and I approved, was that everybody was being drafted. And I got an opportunity to go to school for a while. I went to the Virginia Military Institute for a period of time, but then they closed the program that I was in. And so then I ended up being in an infantry's training school. And I think they did that because I was one of the country boys and knew how to shoot a gun. But anyway, that's another story.
Well, this is a very important factor in your class, was the war. all of the classes in that period, many of the boys did not finish high school because they went in the military. And then some finished later and some did not.
Right.
But that, talk a little bit about that, because that's a really, it defined your generation.
Well, the ones I remember are the names like Jake Risch and Rennie, those people going in about the same time or maybe a little sooner. And our class was small anyway. I'm not sure exactly why. Well, of course, a lot of kids would drop out.
Mm-hmm.
That was unfortunately too common then.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. People who didn't go in were, like I mentioned that I had done, were drafted after they got out of high school. It was always very rewarding working with young people from this area. I was, I guess I would say, very successful basketball coach.
For junior high or high school?
High school.
High school?
Started the only All-American that they had, Tom McMillan.
Mm-hmm. Did you?
And so on. And there are incidents I recall of kids and the way we dealt with things and so on. And I just comment about a group of kids waxed our sliding glass doors once. They thought they were soaping them, but I'm not sure.
Dear.
Anyway.
At your house?
At the house. These are the kinds of things that happened in a way that I dealt with a lot of things. And my wife at the time said, well, we've got to get that cleaned up. And I said, no, we'll just wait. Because when something like this happens, it's not going to be a secret forever. And we waited, and we had a little clean the sliding glass windows off by the people who put the material on them.
They eventually came forward.
One or two could not keep it under their hats, and they said something about, did you get your sliding glass doors cleaned? And I said, we're going to have a little sliding glass door cleaning party. And 4 people came. They were the guilty ones.
They had to use razor blades?
And as they scraped, I guess they had some soap too, because they scraped and they scrubbed, and we got that cleaned off. And then we had a little refreshments, and we had a lot of fun talking about it for years.
That's great. You don't remember this, but you were, when I was in your algebra class in junior high, I talked all the time, and so you...
Well, I remember that.
You do? So you made me sit in the back of the room where there was no one to talk to.
Well, that was...
Drove me nuts.
But that was better than punishing you, right? I
mean, that was punishment.
Well, I know.
I had no one to
you're
talk
saying
to.
It was for you, but it took care of a problem for me.
As a speaker, I find it very annoying when somebody is talking when I'm speaking. It's very distracting. So I apologize.
Well, that is a little late.
Yeah. 50 years or so.
Oh.
Well, this has been a pleasure. Is there anything else you'd like to record for?
No, except I consider myself very fortunate for having practically spent my life in Mansfield. And I am one of those people who feels that the word is ambiance or something is being lost now with so many gas trucks and water tanks and all of this going through, and it's not quite, there's a lot more hustle and bustle now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one other concern that I think probably, as far as where you live and what you do, that we've lived in the best of times. I just think we have gotten into the natural resources, and I would be very concerned that a lot of people are not going to have the kind of lifestyle that we've had.
Yes, I agree completely. It's when you use it up, you use it up.
Yep. And so I guess that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned, but it's not a good thing for as far as our kids.
Mm-hmm. Future.